Well, hello, beautiful people. How are we doing today? We are back at it once again with the book 3 Feet from Gold by Sharon Leckler, and this is chapter 9. This chapter is going to be a little bit longer, so I don't want to get too much into um, just review and stuff like that, and just kind of let the chapter kind of speak for itself. But I hope you guys are really enjoying it because yesterday was a really good one. If you want to kind of understand the intricacies of Chick-fil-A, a lot of details in that, and just kind of understanding where they came from, and also being of service to others. How can I serve you today? Such a powerful statement. So definitely go back and watch that if you haven't. And let's go ahead and get into chapter 9. Here we go.
No man achieves great success who is unwilling to make personal sacrifices. Napoleon Hill. Chapter 9. Goal Driven. When Greg returned home, he went straight to work, not to his regular place of employment, but to work on himself. He realized that what Don Green had shared with him was true. Napoleon Hill said there is far more gold harvested from the mines of great people than can ever be unearthed from the soil. Greg had now become a prospector in his own right, and he wanted more gold. He knew that his own financial well-being might be placed in jeopardy, but his decision was made. He would take action by continuing to interview business leaders and uncover more shining nuggets of wisdom. He would need to seek the association of the Napoleon Hill Foundation to help him in gaining access to these notable personalities. Hey, wait a minute, Greg said to himself. His memory went back to the first note Buckland had written him, which asked him what he would do with the things he learned. Many receive good advice, yet few profit from it. Will you? Instantly, he understood that he had been set up from the beginning on this new path toward success. In the time that had gone by since he picked up the wrong jacket, Greg's life had been almost completely transformed. With this new aha moment, there appeared to be a more fulfilling destiny awaiting him. He wasn't going to stop 3 feet from gold. Instead, he was transferring his drilling operation to uncover a new vein of gold for himself. For himself. Was that good enough? What about the other people in his life? Family, friends, the woman he loved, those in need. He realized he must lead by example and apply what he had learned. One of the subtle messages that was seeping through was that successful people were rarely selfish people. Could this be a rule? He made another decision. Recognizing that his attention and passions were evolving away from his marketing company and that he wanted to focus on his new vision, he decided to offer the business to his employees. When he spoke to them that day, they jumped at the chance for shared ownership, but were also quite surprised by the new Greg. In turning the business over to his employees, he was actually mentoring them and helping them move toward their own passion and goals. He had started giving back, just as he had promised John Buckland and Don Green he would do. Pass it on. Within a week, the papers were signed and the transfer of the business complete. He scheduled another meeting with Don Green in Virginia. The night before he left for the meeting, he placed another phone call to David Engel. This time, his message was different, as were his expectations. His voicemail was brief, to the point, and from the heart. David, I just have to say this. I love you and want the best for you. I want to help you, but I don't know how to do it. Mia and I are talking again, and she suggested that you might try another rehab or some kind of program. If and when you make the decision that you want to get better, I'll stand behind you, and I'm willing to help pay for it. Think about it. Call me. He couldn't know how David would react to his offer, but he knew he felt better, as if the weight of the world was being lifted from his shoulders. Now it was up to his brother to take the actions, the same way Greg was doing for himself. The next morning, as he sat before the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, his hands trembled. His nervousness was based not on fear, but on his hope for the meeting and its outcome. As Kathy had suggested, Greg hadn't planned, He had simply moved toward the goal of attaining the support of the Hill organization. He pleaded his case like a zealous public defender and was quick to present his notepad and its many entries. Calling upon each adage, he described his encounters with the incredible people he had met so far and their words of wisdom. The silence following his presentation felt like hours, but it was truly only seconds before Green responded. Every day I get requests like yours. Every day someone wants to do a project with the Napoleon Hill Foundation and write the next chapter of the Think and Grow Rich philosophy. The young man's heart fell. Green said, almost every time someone asks, I have to send them to our attorney for the standard, thank you for your interest, yet we cannot accept your invitation at this time memorandum. Truth is, we only have so much time in the day. We can only endorse and effectively support a few select projects. Greg felt the familiar feeling of rejection settle in around him. Then Green smiled. That said, I like your moxie. More than that, you come highly recommended by our mutual friend, Bucky. But you know what the final piece is for me? Greg just sat there without moving a muscle. You came back here to my office to ask me in person. You showed up. I like that. Don Green steepled his hands together at his lips as he continued his thought. Tell you what, I'm not going to promise you anything at this time, but I will do one thing for you right now. Greg held his breath. In 1908, Napoleon Hill was invited to Andrew Carnegie's mansion in Manhattan. Can you imagine his emotions after coming from very humble beginnings and then stepping through the doors of a 64-room mansion? What Hill took from that day was more than just a memory of meeting such a great man. He also left with a hand-signed recommendation letter from Mr. Carnegie himself that would open many doors for him, doors that Hill could never have gotten through on his own. Considering what you want to do, I will write you a similar letter from the foundation. It'll let people know that we support your vision, and I'm sure it will open doors for you too. What you do with the letter and those opportunities will be up to you. As Greg thought about it, he realized he was walking in the footsteps of a great man, Napoleon Hill, exactly 100 years later. What an incredible opportunity and responsibility. Then we'll see what you come back with. Even though I can't guarantee anything right now, I hope you understand that I do have confidence in you. The eager student promised. Dad, you won't be sorry. Green smiled at the young man's enthusiasm. Keep in touch. I'd like to hear about your progress in this journey. As the two shook hands on this agreement, Green had an inspiration of his own. He called out to his assistant, Anita, can you come in here for a second? A woman appeared in the door and in a deep, beautiful Southern accent asked, What may I do for you boys? You know that charity event I was supposed to attend next month? Sure do, she replied. But you can't make that one. We have you booked for a presentation down in Florida that day. Yes, I remember. So would you do me a favor and give Greg here my ticket for the Dinner of Champions so he can attend on my behalf and represent the foundation? The next few weeks sped by so quickly that Greg barely had time to attend the basics of living. Instead, his full attention and activity were dedicated to calling, emailing, and researching contemporary business icons. Even though his bank account dwindled daily, he kept on task. Back when Napoleon Hill had published his original classic, he had interviewed the top business leaders of his era. While the principles he discovered are timeless, the business landscape had changed. However, one thing remained as strong as ever, the power of a third-party endorsement. And what Greg found was that in some way, almost all the business leaders he contacted attributed their success to reading Think and Grow Rich. They had built their success on the principles that Hill had shared from studying the most successful business leaders of the early 20th century. Now Greg had an opportunity to record the stories of some of the most successful business leaders of the early 21st century. Could his work have the same impact on the next generation? The project could not be timed any better than this. The economy was teetering on the edge of disaster. and would begin to fall sooner than Greg or anyone else realized. Here is what the letter said on Napoleon Hill Foundation letterhead. December 5th, 2007. Mr. Greg S. Reid, San Diego, California, 92121. Dear Mr. Reid, with this letter, we are very happy to confirm our exclusive agreement to move forward with this exciting and important project. 3 Feet from Gold by Greg S. Reid, based on the teachings of the late Mr. Hill's classic work, Think and Grow Rich. The Napoleon Hill Foundation has years of experience in educating and inspiring literally millions of individuals across the globe, and with this collaboration, we expect this movement to continue exponentially. Thank you for your dedication toward the betterment of mankind, and welcome to the Napoleon Hill family. With regards, signed, Don M. Green, Executive Director. He decided that he would use the recommendation letter in much the same way that Hill had used Carnegie's a century before. He wrote down a goal in his notepad to schedule 7 meetings with key luminaries. As he started to make his appointments, he quickly discovered something that most people would not believe. The most successful people seemed to be the most available. In nearly every instance, the people at the top of their field were happy to pass on their knowledge to a willing student. He summarized in his notepad, the most successful people are the most accessible people. The most successful people want to teach others how to become successful. It seemed to be the people in the middle, struggling to find their voice and create their own identity in a hyper-competitive atmosphere, who had no time to help anyone else. They seemed to be controlled by their ego, wealth, and fancy titles. They hadn't discovered who they were quite yet. They reminded Greg of the saying, ego stands for edging God out. These are the people who could use the success equation most. But the people he had met through Mr. Buckland were so different from the people he used to associate with. They were incredibly successful and generous with their time and truly desired to help others. They were confident, but not to the point of being arrogant. Their hearts were still bigger than their status. Finding his way to his assigned table at the Dinner of Champions, Greg could hardly control his excitement. Seated right beside him was one of his all-time favorite sports idols. This was a man who had crushed many others on purpose, and yet in person, he was a true gentle giant. It was the one and only Evander Holyfield, the only boxer to win the heavyweight championship 4 times. Greg's slim frame seemed even smaller as he sat down next to this impressive physical specimen of a man. While Holyfield's physique dominated the room, his mere presence and gentle spirit caused people to turn and smile. Without waiting for a formal introduction, Greg, in his usual driven manner, said, "Okay, Evander, I've got to know, what makes you a better athlete than your competition?" Holyfield could have dismissed this inquisitive stranger, but instead offered an immediate reply. "A higher standard than anyone else." "Please explain," said Greg, listening intently. "It's simple, really. If you have a car and will not tolerate it being dirty or running badly, you'll have a better car than your neighbor. If you see a home where the wife will not accept her husband coming home drunk or the kids being a mess, she will have a better family dynamic, right?" Greg pulled out his notepad and pen, ready to write. "The same applies to sports. I always worked out early, stayed late, and never lost sight of my dream. So much so that we would even come up with new ways to exercise that no one else had thought of. We did this because we had a higher standard than anyone else in the ring. A standard of excellence, we called it. And that standard is what I believe allowed me to win a medal at the Olympics, along with all the championship belts." In the pad, Greg wrote, "Set the highest standards." Then he asked, "But didn't it hurt getting hit all the time?" Holyfield looked up and winked. "Look at this face." Then he added, "I didn't get hit that much. It's like this. If you focus on the blows you're receiving, the only place you'll end up is on your back. I never put much attention on the damage I was getting. I only focused on the damage I was inflicting." Greg's eyes widened as he asked, "Are you saying you never felt the punches?" "Sure, I felt them," Holyfield said, "but I never lost my focus on the job at hand. That was to hit my opponent back, but even harder. The same applies to life in general. So many people focus on the hits coming their way. They watch the news that tells them how bad things are. They listen to their friends who are unhappy in life. In other words, they focus on how many blows they're taking when, in fact, they should change their attention toward fighting back and staying on their toes." As the great heavyweight began eating his meal, Greg wrote, "Stay on your toes. Focus on the job at hand." This was amazing. He had not expected such wisdom from an athlete. Then it came to him. Holyfield was far more than a boxer. He was a fighter, and that was the difference. He was defined not by his career, but by his achievements. Holyfield paused and pointed his fork at Greg. "You know the funny thing? When the final bell rings and they raise your hand and the crowd goes wild, whether it's a boxing match or any success in life, you never feel or remember the blows. You only feel the victory."
Hmm.
Greg added that to his notepad. "You never feel or remember the blows. You only feel the victory." As Greg sat there listening to this incredible champion, he realized he was hearing the same advice he had received from Truett Cathy, just from a different perspective. There was electricity in the room, and Greg felt himself to be a part of it, totally charged up. Holyfield added this final observation. "You want to know something else? The other guy, the one in the losing locker room, he's going to feel each and every bruise he took along the way, and for years only be able to tell stories of how he almost made it." Looking Greg dead in the eye, Holyfield finished his thought with a knockout punch. "I don't know about you, but all I want is to be a champion." It was a classic stand up and cheer moment. Greg had never felt so stirred up inside.
Love it. All I want to do is be a champion. Oh my gosh. Let's definitely end it there. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Some very, very insightful things there. Definitely, I would say come back and listen to it again, absorb a lot of that information, especially from Evander Holyfield. If you guys don't know who he is, man, he was a boxing great, up there with Mike Tyson. Matter of fact, they went toe to toe. There was some great fights in there also. So yeah, do some research on him. He's a really amazing person, and I mean, he just gave some really great, amazing advice. So if you guys haven't already, make sure that you like and subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you guys don't miss any of this great content. And I will be back here again tomorrow. And until next time, you guys make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.